Hi YouTube, my name is Jordan. This is Kilted Warrior Life. So we're all warriors, weekend warriors, one kind or another. I just happen to do all of my activities in a kilt. So we're going to go ahead and talk about everything kilt related. We're going to do kilt reviews, we're going to review a lot of kilt related products, Gallic products, Celtic products, might do a little bit of culture and kind of Gallic music and those kind of different videos. And we're also going to talk about some other different interests I have, nerd stuff, some Spartan races, some obstacle racing, and the occasional triathlon or two. So, without further ado, let's get started. Today we're going to be reviewing the Tartanista 5-yard budget kilt. So, I am a huge fan of budget kilts. I'm not the kind of guy that has a ton of money to go out and spend on like $500 wool kilts. So I don't really care if the kilts are wool or not, although if they are, it's a bonus. But I'm a huge fan of budget kilts. I try to find the kilts that are the best quality that I can take and put through hell and bring back and have them still be okay. And if for whatever reason they get trashed, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to feel heartbroken, and if I have to replace them, it's not a whole lot of money. So let's get started. The Tartanista kilt is one of my favorite budget kilts. It's the first kilt I ever got. It's the best one that I currently wear, and I put this thing through the ringer. I wear this about once every 2 to 3 days, and it gets some pretty heavy use. This survived the Longs Peak Scottish Festival back in Estes this year, and it's also been taken out hiking and a lot of other stuff. So, let's get started. So, I am actually at my in-laws' house today. I'm kind of hanging out. So, we just got done coming down here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how I pack my kilts as well. So, let's do this. Basically, I travel with all of my kilts rolled like this. I mean, you can see the rubber bands over here that I've actually already popped off. I basically roll it into the pleats to keep them from getting smashed and damaged, and then I just rubber band it in place at either end. I've traveled with this kilt a lot of times like that. It works out really, really well. So go ahead and unroll it and I can kind of show you here. So, well, if the apron doesn't fall over on me, I can. So this is kind of what the kilt looks like. Whenever it's been unrolled, you can kind of see some of the pleats got a little bit rumpled in travel. Not too bad. The pleats themselves are very good quality. They're about 3 inches deep, and there's quite a few of them. There is only 5 yards in this kilt, so it's not absolutely heavy. They also are sewn down. You can see they're kind of sewn down to about right here-ish. So they stay pretty well. I haven't tried to steam them yet. It's probably about time to go ahead and iron this kilt, which is something I've never done before. So whenever that happens, I'm sure we will be doing it together. So some of the other things to look at. So the buckles on this kilt, it is a 3-strap kilt. The buckles on this kilt aren't terrible quality. You can kind of see that there. These are kind of a cheaper, light stainless steel kind of thing, sewn in to the little loops in the actual cloth itself. And these hold pretty well. I'm not too concerned about these coming off. This little buckle in the center here does sometimes give me some problems as far as just getting it to stay or getting it to actually move if you're trying to get it undone or trying to get it into the actual hole, which can be a problem. But it's not absolutely terrible depending on when you're actually doing it and what you're doing. Let's see if I can kind of give you a shot of the other side here. So you can kind of see the actual apron on the kilt here. It's pretty good quality. The tartan cloth is pretty good. You can see it has a nice fringed edge here. With an infant, I have had a couple of these get pulled off, since I am also a kilted father. So when these do get pulled off, it's not absolutely terrible, and the individual threads are all that's got pulled. You can kind of see the seam is actually reinforced pretty well, and it's actually sewn in pretty well. And as far as the weight of the cloth, this is actually a pretty heavyweight cloth for a utility kilt. It's just some actual acrylic fabric. This is not wool at all, but it has a fairly decent substitute feel to it. And it is fairly water resistant. I've spilled some soda on this once or twice, not had too big of a problem with it. And it holds the color really, really well. Next thing up on this kilt is these straps and the buckles. So the straps are kind of a lightweight leather, or kind of like pleather sort of feeling material. They do have several holes punched in them that you can see there, so you actually have a little bit of adjustment with your kilt if you didn't measure it just right. These are very good quality in the way that I'm not too worried about them coming out. You can actually see the stitching on the inner side of the strap has actually been reinforced. So you're not too worried about these coming out. I haven't had any problems with them yet. They do crease up a little bit, and you can kind of see on the straps themselves where the actual buckle has bit into them and made kind of indents in them. That's kind of how lightweight they are. But as far as the actual buckles themselves, I'm not too terribly concerned about these coming off. I will say you do need a kilt pin with this kilt. I wear mine down up around here, and it helps hold everything together. I have a pewter kilt pin that I wear that I will be reviewing later, and it does kind of keep everything from flying up because this fabric is just lightweight enough that to make it drape right, you really need to put a kilt pin on it. So whenever you actually open these kilts up, you can see on the inside here, you have the little tag here that tells you that it is a Scottish design tartan, 100% acrylic, and in my case it's a size 30, and you should machine wash it warm or dry clean with percolo only and moderate drying. Personally, I don't actually wash my kilts very often. I kind of take the suit approach where I take it, brush it off, shake out any dirt, hang it up, let it dry for a couple of days, and just kind of air out. And I really haven't had to wash it yet. It's about time to get this repressed, but I haven't really had to experiment with that yet. As far as this goes, it does have kind of a little satin cloth lining in here for wherever you sit to keep you off the pleats, which works out pretty well. The pleats themselves actually hold their shape really, really nicely, and they kind of have a nice knife edge going here. My only complaint is that really sometimes it doesn't hang quite right. The inner apron on this does have a tendency to hang about 1 to 2 inches lower than it should. On the inside, it doesn't really hold very well up over here. So what you actually kind of wind up with is a droopy kilt depending on the day and depending on how you stand and whether or not you are moving around a lot. The way I found to fix it is to actually pull this inside and kind of rely on the friction of the fabric to keep it from slipping down and opening up in ways that it really shouldn't. Other than that, this is a very good kilt. You can find the actual URL. I put the Amazon URL down in the description for you, and I also put the URL for their official site, which right now, if you sign up for their newsletter, you can get 20% off your purchase. So it really is a very good deal. And I'll see you again in 1 second. I looked up the specs for you guys just to make sure that I was telling you right, everything was kosher, and got a little bit of clarification for you. So the leather straps that I said were kind of a cheaper leather pleather kind of material actually are real leather, according to Amazon. The pleats themselves are actually 3.5 inches deep, so a little bit deeper than even I was actually expecting, so I'm kind of impressed by that, and they do hold really, really well. And the actual kilt is 5 yards. It is 10-ounce weight, so a little bit lighter than you're normally used to, but it really, you can't tell, it feels pretty normal. And the drop itself is actually 24 inches, so if you're kind of a taller guy or you have longer legs, you might think about that. Remember, the kilt should always break and bisect the middle of your knees. It really shouldn't ever hang too much longer. You have about 1 inch, maybe 2 inches of wiggle room. If you go too much longer, you start to look like a guy wearing kind of a mid-length capri-ish skirt. If you go too much shorter, you start to look like a guy in a miniskirt, and nobody wants that, since we're trying to keep kilts as kind of a masculine-looking thing, even though it is somewhat of a skirt. So that's one thing to think about whenever you're trying to measure out how long you actually need your kilt are. If you're a longer-legged guy, you might actually need to buy custom kilts, just because a lot of companies with their standard budget kilts don't offer a differing drop. It also is lined front and back with 100% cotton. I will say it is very cool in the summers. It was very, very hot at the Longs Peak Scottish Festival this year. We didn't have a whole lot of shade to go off of whenever my wife and I went, so it actually worked out pretty well. I was very cool pretty much the whole day. And really, in general, wearing this thing around, I don't sweat very much at all. It's really a pretty nice kilt. We'll see how it does in the winter. That is starting to roll up, and it'll be the first winter I have this kilt. And I will let you know how it goes with keeping warm, trying to use it. Also, just something I kind of forgot from the review to let you guys know. But one of the other problems that I do have with this kilt, and kind of one of the complaints, and it could just be the way I'm wearing it, I don't know, I've never really had anybody give me pointers on how to wear a kilt, is the actual left-hand pleat. So the very first pleat on the left side of the kilt itself, for me, has a tendency to come open and actually kind of smash out. Basically, the apron pulls itself open is kind of what it winds up amounting to. The apron actually pulls itself open. I don't know if I wear the apron too far across my body, and therefore it just pulls that pleat open, or what's going on. But I do occasionally have an issue with that, so I find myself, especially when I get in and out of the car, which I'm horrible about taking the time to actually make sure I don't smash pleats, so it's kind of amazing that this kilt has held up to that so well. But whenever I find myself getting out of the car, I usually have to readjust the apron and actually refold that pleat and make sure it stays in. Otherwise, it does have a tendency to just kind of unfold. And then it looks a little bit off. It's not horrible. It's not something you really need to worry about terribly much if you're just out walking around. But if you're at any kind of formal event, it's something you might want to think about, whether or not you need to constantly adjust your kilt as you're going about throughout the day. So this kilt does work really well also with a actual sporran chain. I haven't had a whole lot of issues with smashing pleats. I know some bigger guys can have an issue where the pleats themselves start to get damaged because the chain is rubbing. That's not something that this kilt has had an issue with. I also haven't noticed the kilt pin damaging the fabric at all, which is pretty nice. You don't want to damage the fabric on the side of your kilt, and this fabric seems to hold up pretty well to having a pin push through it every day. I never wear this kilt without a kilt pin for the reasons I stated earlier about how it tends to be a little bit more lightweight and can kind of fly up on you, and it doesn't hang quite right if you don't have a pin on. That could also just be my size. I'm kind of a smaller guy, so it depends on when, I guess if you're bigger, maybe your kilt hangs differently, I don't know. So that is pretty much what I came up with for the specs, just to let you guys know, so that way your educated opinion. You can find all those same specs that I just listed off in the link, once again, down in the description to the Amazon or on their official site. As far as this review goes, Tartanista is actually a very good company. I really like their kilts. I actually picked up that Blackwatch kilt for right around $27.99 on Amazon, which is really, really good. It's not eligible for Prime membership, so unfortunately you wind up paying about $18.95 in shipping, which makes it right around at a $50 kilt. I think I actually paid like an extra $5 whenever I did it, and I did express shipping from Tartanista because these actually come from Scotland, and that got it here in 2 days anyway, so it didn't wind up being that big of a deal. But if you want kind of a really cheap, budget, Scottish-made kilt that you can put through the ringer, come back out, and have it be still passable, and also have it look good so you can wear it to formal events and not really need to worry about it a whole lot, I totally recommend you buy the Tartanista kilt. It's very good quality for the money that you actually pay for it. It's about the quality of like a $150 kilt, and you're paying about $50 for it. So it really is pretty good. I do recommend you buy it off of their main site if you can't find what you want on Amazon. On Amazon, they have most of the major tartans. They also have a lot of sporrans, a lot of other different things that Tartanista makes that you can get. But on their actual site, they can also custom make pretty much anything that you actually want in most of the fabrics that you actually want. So it's a really good budget kilt if you're just getting started out, especially with kilt wearing. It's a great one, and I completely recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and I will let you guys go. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing. Hopefully I'm going to get better at making these videos as time goes on, because this is #1, first time I've ever done this. But with any luck, we will get better. I have a ton of more reviews planned. We're going to coming up. We're going to try to get one of these out every few days, and hopefully we will go ahead and together we will make it a more kilted world. Rock on, guys. See you later.